Ready?
Oh, okay. Good. You're good to go.
Okay. So I will call this virtual regular school board meeting to order. It's about 6:05. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, approval of the consent agenda, and there's three items on that. The minutes of April 23rd, 2020, the second budget committee minutes from the 12th of May, and the personnel report. Are there any questions or additions or corrections to either one of the minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion. This is Dawn, to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jose. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, raise your hand or put a signal up.
Yeah, I can't see all that.
Okay, I can, I'll just ask just for clarity, anybody opposed to that? The motion passes. Let's see. To comply with the governor's executive orders, North Wasco County School District Board of Directors will conduct the May 28th meeting by video conference only. The board will only accept written public comments for this meeting. The board is committed to public comment process and will consider all public comments seriously. Public comments for virtual meetings will continue to follow the school board policy, BDH, public participation in board meetings. Please send written comments to public comments at northwasco.k.12.or.us or by US mail to North Wasco County School District 21. Attention, public comments. 3632 West 10th Street, the Dalles, Oregon 97058. All of this information you can find on the district's website. Clearly label your subject line as public comment and include the topic. For example, public comment assessment. Approved written public comment will be included in the school board agenda under the public comment section and may be read aloud as determined by the board chair. Written public comment for the May 28th meeting will be accepted or was accepted until Wednesday the 27th by 12 noon. Public comments submitted after that time will be included in the next regular school board meeting agenda. As of for today's meeting, there were no public comments made. The next item on the agenda is staff retirement recognition, and that's Candy. You want to take that? You have to unmute.
I am unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can barely.
Oh dear. Okay. Let me see if I can get it to turn up. How about now?
Yes, much better.
Okay. All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. And it's that time of year when we get to honor our retiring staff. And so our first staff member that we're going to honor is Teresa Schrum. And I believe she's in the waiting room. So can Teresa be brought in?
She's joined.
Okay. So Robbie, can you highlight Teresa so we can have her?
Yeah. Hey, Teresa, can you turn your video on?
There she goes.
There we go. Hi.
She's muted.
There we go.
There we go.
Here I see Cindy.
Oh yeah. Ah.
to say something so that you can bring her up to begin with, like you did with John?
Introduce yourself, Teresa.
Looks like she's frozen, maybe, or something.
Yeah. The technology play continued, I think.
It's been a day of it.
Yeah. Oh. There she goes. She's rejoined us, I think. Oops. No. I have a feeling she has a connection issue. It looks like a
Okay.
connection issue to me. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Do you want me to, why don't we try to bring in Kathy Rhodes King? And we'll go back and see if perhaps Teresa can get hers resolved.
Here we go.
There's Kathy. Yay, okay, success. So hi, Kathy.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Good to see
Yeah,
everybody.
so have just a few good words to say about you as you retire. So I'm glad we were able to highlight you and people can see.
Thank you.
Kathy is retiring from teaching after a 30 plus year career educating and serving Oregon students. During those years, she taught kindergarten, first grade, third grade, fourth grade, as well as working as a reading and a math specialist and as a literacy coach. Kathy came to our district in 2016 as a first grade teacher at Dry Hollow, and she's worked the past 3 years supporting students and teachers as a reading specialist. She's been instrumental in implementing our systems of support and reading intervention for students. Kathy says, making a safe, fun, engaging learning environment where we become a family has been a privilege. And she is most proud of the relationships she has built with students over the years. When asked what she will miss most, she notes that she will miss those same relationships with staff, students, and parents. She'll miss being a part of students' lives and seeing them grow. We're very grateful, Kathy, for your commitment to our students' learning and to their well-being. And we wish you all the best as you pursue your other passions and adventures in retirement. So congratulations. And thank you for joining us. Appreciate that. Very
Thank you
best to you.
so much. Appreciate that. Thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Kathy. So what's your first plan after you retire?
I'm actually relocating to the state of Nevada. And we'll look at trying to settle into a whole new living environment. So after that, we'll see. So spending time with family.
Today's warm up is preparing you for the Nevada heat.
Absolutely. We don't use air conditioning in our house. And so we're trying to get used to it as much as possible. Yep. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is Teresa Schrum able to come back in or is she still having technical difficulties?
There she
Ah,
is.
there she is. Hi, Teresa.
She's
Muted.
still muted.
She goes.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you're freezing up a little bit there, but you know what? We can see you and that's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and start and just say a few things. So thank
Okay.
you so much for joining us this evening. So Teresa was hired at the Dalles School District in 2000 to teach at the Dalles Middle School. And as a veteran math teacher, Teresa has been an asset not only as a beloved teacher, but also as a mentor for many, many colleagues. She has the skill set necessary to differentiate the most difficult math concepts and help struggling students. And at the same time, she has the ability to elevate her instruction and challenge students, even the most advanced students, by helping them build critical thinking skills and confidence in their math abilities that serve them well beyond middle school. So Teresa, we wish you well in your next adventure and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Candy. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We live up here at High Prairie and our internet kind of goes in and out. Yeah, I have been here for 20 years and I started in the original, the Dalles Middle School in a nurse's office. I taught 2 passport classes there and then I took a cart and taught advanced 7th grade math in Sonia Little's language arts class. So I've just been reminiscing how far I've come and all the buildings I've been in, and some of you I've known for a long time. And I'll miss it in a lot of ways. Cassie was talking about relationships. I'll miss a lot of the relationships. I've had a lot of teaching partners over the years, like Peter Gay and Laura Carroll and Courtney Kaiser. And then the youngsters I work with now, Miss Cummins and Miss Karsten and Mr. James and Cassie Staley and Jason Ventura have just been great as we've been putting together a Google Classroom and finishing out this last third of the year. So there's a lot. And I still have 2.5 weeks more to go, but I'm looking forward to. My husband's an orchardist. And several years ago, we started taking separate vacations because our daughter lives in London. And so now we can actually start taking vacations together, which is nice.
Great.
Very good. Very good. Wish you the very best, Teresa. You've done a wonderful job for us and so many students have benefited from your skills. So thank you.
Thanks. I see him all the time. Like I'm buying something at the deli. You were my teacher in 7th grade. And all over town.
Awesome.
That's it.
Very cool.
Thank you for your long service, Teresa.
Yeah, thank you so much, Teresa.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
So Teresa, if your husband's an orchardist, does that mean that you didn't have to have kids give you apples?
No, I actually brought pears 2 different years and gave them out to all my classes and the kids just
Oh, that's
loved
great.
that. Yeah. It came in very handy being married to an orchardist because I could talk about, if you fill the sprayer and the solution you have to put in and you can really relate to a lot of the kids in our community.
Just that very thing that helped you differentiate and kind of connect kiddos that were maybe not as engaged by applying it that way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for everything you've done, Teresa. That's amazing.
Okay,
Um,
thanks.
Thank you.
So Candy, Joe Wallace. Thanks, Teresa.
Okay, so is
Joe Wallace.
Okay. So is she able to come in?
She's in here.
Okay, I'll look to Robbie to bring her in so we can see her.
There she is.
Joe, hey. Hi there.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, so Joe, I'm just going to say a few nice things about you and then you get to say something if you'd like as well.
Okay.
So welcome. Joe began her career in the Dalles School District in 1992 as an assistant in the detention room at the Dalles Middle School. She went on to work there as an instructional assistant in the resource room before transferring to Dry Hollow and then another transfer to Colonel Wright. And that was all until 1997 when you were transferred back to Dry Hollow. And then you've worked there ever since. So knowing that she's had a part in the learning and growth of students with special needs fills her heart with pride. And Joe will miss many things about her work, including staff interactions and the caring climate of that school. However, she will greatly miss the numerous daily student interactions, the countless morning greetings, the students in her small skills group, and the bus filled with students that wave goodbye to her as they leave Dry Hollow parking lot each afternoon. Joe will dearly miss the students. So Dry Hollow is going to miss Joe and the skill, care, and humor she brought to work each day. And as she looks forward to retirement and more time with her family, we deeply appreciate Joe's years of dedicated service to our students, and we wish you the very best, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. So you started out in the detention room?
Yes.
What was the worst thing that a kid did? Or are you not allowed to say?
Oh, gosh. You know, the detention room was not a horrible place.
Oh, really?
Right. You think of kids and detention room and you think it's the worst of the worst, but it wasn't. It was mostly kids that were just unprepared for class, that
Oh, okay.
pencil for the
Mm,
bathroom, or they were habitually late. And so it really wasn't that bad. The ones that really were the problems, I didn't have to deal with. So I really can't say it was a bad experience. I really can't say I've had any bad experiences. I've been truly blessed to have been able to work with the quality people that I've had the opportunity to work with and learn from. And I will so miss them. And the kids, it's goes without saying that, and this crazy time to not be able to end it with all those hugs, and it just will be missed.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
I truly loved every moment, even the bad ones, because you can't appreciate the good ones unless you have some
Mhm.
difficult ones to compare it with.
And they probably need you the most. Thank you so much for your service, Joe. Thank you so much.
Oh, I would do it all over again.
Thanks, Joe.
I'll enjoy my own grandchildren now.
Excellent,
Hey,
excellent.
Awesome.
whenever we can get to travel again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wish
Thanks,
you were
Joe.
my homeroom teacher or detention teacher.
What?
I wish you were my detention teacher.
It really wasn't bad. I think kids felt safe there too. And that's what we want. We want kids feeling safe.
Exactly. That's great. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Okay. I've got, bye, Joe. Thank you.
Bye.
Do you have Ruby?
Nope. I've got Lynn Carpenter.
Lynn Carpenter, okay. Robbie, can you bring Lynn forward? Hi, Lynn.
There we go.
Unmute myself. Okay.
There you go.
There I am. Hello.
So Lynn, Charlene sent a letter to me and she wanted me to read this tonight. So it's
Oh,
to the
no.
it's to me and to the board. So so I said yes, I would.
Oh,
Okay.
darn you, Candy.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Grab the Kleenex.
I did. Cindy told me to do that.
So tonight we're wishing a happy retirement to a longtime, wonderful, compassionate, and caring teacher, Lynn Carpenter. All the while we are losing one of the best. She has finally made the difficult decision to retire. I say difficult because of the connection she has made with so many students who have attended her medical terminology and first responders classes over the last 25 years, with a number of them continuing their education in the medical and education fields. Also included are the many families, community members, Mid-Columbia Fire and Rescue, Columbia Gorge Community College, and Mid-Columbia Medical Center that she has been associated with along the way. She is truly going to be missed. The invitation she receives from students graduating from college is amazing. They make her smile knowing that she has a huge part in their decision. It's also heartwarming to see her former students returning to the Gorge area for their careers. Was she tough at times? Absolutely. Knowing it would help guide students into caring adults that they are today. And now it's on to the next chapter of traveling, grandkids, and anything else that she wishes to do. Maybe not in that order. So Lynn, you have been with the district since January of 1992.
Yes.
And we just can't say enough to say thank you for all those years of service and the impact you have had on so many, positive impact on so many lives. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been my true pleasure. I was just say I have the privilege of spreading sunshine, and that's I just have a passion for people and kids and their families. This community has just been great to me, and it's been great it's just been wonderful to be able to share and give back and to have that connection. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm afraid of is not having that. But as Charlene said, there's changes and it's time. So I thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn.
I think you're going to make us all cry.
I
here.
know, I got it. Sorry. It's just been wonderful, and it is truly a pleasure. It's been my life, but as my family says, I've got 4 little people under 5 that want that attention, and so I guess it's time I have to share. So, but such special memories and such just the connection with the college and the hospital and Mid-Columbia Fire and Rescue, and just the sports, the activities, everything. It's been just being a part of the community, part of their lives, part of family. So thank you so much.
Very, very positive, high energy part of their family. So thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
Thank you. If you think about it, every teacher has ripple effects across the community, but yours is even more profound because you're enabling the people that are responding to people. So it's really, you've had such a huge effects all over. That's pretty amazing if you think about it. We're just stunning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Okay, so who do we have next, Cindy?
Ruby.
Ruby. Okay, excellent. Robbie's going to bring Ruby in for us, I hope. And Randy stepped in to say that I have to not turn my head. So this is going to be difficult. I've got to figure out how to juggle everything because evidently this directional mic doesn't do so well with me when I move my head. Hi, Ruby.
Press Alt.
Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. Appreciate that. So I've got a few things to say about you, and then just want to hear a little bit from you too. So Ruby Thompson has been with us since 1980, and she's been at the Dalles Middle School for over 20 years, and her service as a media specialist has been inspiring. She's very well read, and for years, together with Jim Tyndall, the Dalles Middle School hosted so many events that encouraged the love of reading and poetry in so many students. And in recent years, Ruby has been instrumental in keeping the Kiwanis Builders, establishing and keeping the Kiwanis Builders Club going, even taking on the role of advisor after the first advisor, John Westhofer, had to move from the Dalles. So Ruby has a way of connecting with students and finding just the right genre of book to capture their interest. And under Ruby's care, the middle school library has always been a safe haven for students. And it's a place where students can even go during lunch. So and imagine that for a library. Most people don't think of doing lunch in a library, right? So she's kind and gentle, but firm, and just has the right temperament for middle school students. And that's a specialty, that really is. So Ruby will be sorely missed by the Dalles Middle School staff and students. And we wish you the very, very best in your next adventures, Ruby.
Thank you so much. That's very sweet of you to say. These last few years have just been incredible. I just love what I do. If you have to be in a middle school, the library is the best place to be as far as I'm concerned. And I'm gonna miss the kids.
Amazing job.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sandy, Candy. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I want to know when you're going to write your own book.
Oh boy. After I'm gone, I'll leave it in a drawer for somebody to publish.
Uh-oh.
I have names, I have dates. I wouldn't want to. No, no. I never even thought of that.
I think there's a book in there somewhere.
There definitely is a book in there.
Everybody's life is a book.
Kathy, thank you for your your service, and also at the Builders Club, I'm a Kiwanis, so I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely. Ruby has been so instrumental in keeping that going once that got started. And she was so gracious, always looking after the kiddos when they would come in and at times we had like 3 different shifts of them coming in, you know, because we couldn't get a coordinated lunchtime. So she's done an amazing job of shepherding the Kiwanis Builders Club, but also just like I said, she's got that safe, caring environment of the library where kids can come in there and they know that they're going to be okay because Ruby's there.
Oh. You're going to make me cry. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Of course, following Lynn wasn't fair either, but kind of started this tears to flow. So yeah, thank you for all your kind words. And it's been amazing. And I've got 5 great nephews and 2 little great nieces that I'm going to be a pain in their side for a while. So I can't wait to do that. So.
Oh, good. Enjoy. You deserve, well deserved. Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for doing this.
Well, and thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Many students.
Thank you for saying the kind things.
Very, very true. Okay. So
Michael Winder was here, but then he left. So why don't you do him next, just in case he comes back?
there isn't anyone else out there that's on my list. Okay. So you want me to do Michael now, or do we want to see if he will come back?
Now, just in case he comes back. Yeah.
Okay. So Michael Winder, and I've got to get this so that you can hear. Mike began working for North Wasco in October of 2008. And prior to North Wasco, he was employed by the U.S. Postal Service for many years. He then retired from the Postal Service and wanted a part-time job, he said, for about 10 years, because he had this small little piece of acreage to take care of. And he thought that a part-time job of bus driving would be just a perfect fit. So Mike drove the same route for the duration of his time with North Wasco, serving the families in the Browns Creek area. And he did work an additional 1.5 years at the request of his granddaughter, who was just entering middle school. Mike officially retired from North Wasco at Christmas break. And we want to thank Mike for his 12 years of service and wish him a happy second retirement. So do you want me to move on to the next one? Okay, so the next one is Lori Johnson. Lori has taught in North Wasco since 2006. She has a gift for reaching out and teaching students like few others have. It's a real gift. Lori earns the respect and admiration of our most challenging and fragile students. In addition to her skill in the classroom, she also brings wonderful confections. Now, Jerry was instrumental in sharing this, so evidently he's been the recipient of some of that come from her kitchen. So throughout her time at the Dalles Middle School, and more recently at our Crossroads Therapeutic Classroom, Lori has played a pivotal role in changing lives and helping students heal. So congratulations, Lori, on a wonderful career, and thank you for your endearing service to our kids. So thank you, Lori. So I'll move on to Randy Hayes. So Randy has been a counselor with the Dalles High School since 2013, and he's been a positive presence for both students and staff. When Kurt thinks about Randy, he says he thinks of him with students. He thinks of him at basketball games, in the hallways, outside at lunch, or in the gym, working on 3-pointers with students all around, and always there for the kids. And I can really echo that, because I don't think I was ever at a basketball game that I didn't see Randy front and center and right there. So, and many other athletic events as well. The staff will lose a colleague and a friend to all. In their words, they describe him as compassionate, positive energy, supportive, always smiling, service commitment, and dedication to students. In Randy's words, his plans are to reduce his golf handicap, volunteer, travel, play pickleball, and find some new challenges. So he promises to visit the Dalles High School sporting events, and Kurt says he's going to hold him to that. So we all wish Randy the very best in his next stage in his life. So congratulations to Randy Hayes, counselor from the Dalles High School. I think the only one I have left on my list is Randy Anderson. So Mr. Anderson, can you bring Mr. Anderson forward? There he is. All right. So North Wasco County School District's first year of existence with students was the 2004-2005 school year. And Randy became our he became our third chief financial officer for the district on August 29th of 2007. So we hadn't been in existence very long before Randy came on board. And prior to North Wasco, Randy had been the chief financial officer and director of finance for Wallowa County Healthcare District. Played an integral part in the planning, construction, and financing of a $24 million healthcare facility that was dedicated in March of 2007. And he served for 17 years as a board member on the Enterprise School District Board. He assisted 3 of their superintendents with preparation and adoption of the annual budget. And he also served as the lead negotiator for 4 consecutive bargaining agreements in the Wallowa district. Randy came to North Wasco already very familiar with debt service, capital project funds, and helping with bond elections and various construction projects. And I'll never forget the first board meeting when he took his seat at the table with the board. I thought, how interesting. I've never seen that before, a CFO sitting with the board. Oh, well, why not? And so Randy has taken this place at the table and been an integral part of the formation of this district for the past 13 years. He's been our lead negotiator for 10 contracts and 5 consecutive charter agreements. Randy designed our group HRA, which is a health reimbursement account, and it's been so successful that once he perfected that, others in the state adopted it. He even gave a presentation at Oregon Association of Business Officials about it. Randy's also helped employees and the district finances with a health reimbursement account, VIBA, where we avoid spending additional dollars to health insurance by staff opting out of being double covered. And right now, district employees have $971,000 in that trust. And the district receives a benefit of $450,000 to $500,000 per year of avoided double coverage costs and insurance. Randy's heart has always been for what's best for students. He would finalize the budget, and no sooner than it was adopted, I would be at his office saying, well, now we have this, additional need, and I have some ideas about what we need to do here and there, and what would it take to, and then I would go into some sort of spiel. And over the 13 years, no matter how difficult the times were, Randy would always listen, and he would always find some way to free up some resources and help support whatever it was that we found was needing on the part of our students. So times have changed though now, and it's time for us to exit and go on about our business. So we want to thank Randy for the many years of dedication and service to our district. And we wish you, Randy, the very best as you go off, hopefully fishing and camping and maybe just finding that quiet place in the Wallowas to spend some time by yourself. And so the very best to you, my friend and my colleague.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't do accolades well. All I really tried to ever do was the best I could do here. And I think, yeah, I came early in the history of the district. And I don't know that I brought it on, but there was a great recession that came not long after I started. So, and now we're looking forward to another one. I think, actually, I think, Candy, in my very first year is the one, we met down in the basement of this building and they told us that they were going to cut the state school fund like 3 or 4 times from March till the end of the year. It hasn't all been smooth sailing, but it's been my honor to work beside you and help navigate our way through whatever the challenges were. So I've really enjoyed working here. I'll miss the people terribly. And so thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Randy, this is Dawn. I have to say, math and I don't get along. So I just have to say, looking at all these intricate numbers and budgets and the formulas and all the pieces of information that you have to formulate and pour into projections and all that kind of stuff, that is a really big job. And I really want to acknowledge that that's not an easy job, and especially for me. But I'm just saying, I can appreciate, because I have my own business and I have to do my own financials. I can do those okay, but I can't imagine doing the scale of what you're doing, and then some of the irregularities in the funding and cycles and stuff like that. So, that's a job well done. So thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Well, thank you, Randy, for your service. When I first met you, I thought, this man really enjoys wearing suits. He feels totally comfortable in suits, probably more comfortable in suits than anything else for job performance. So anyway, I'm the opposite of that. But what I've learned is what I value actually is my friendship with you. I've really enjoyed you as a partner in D21, and so I'm going to miss you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. To the suits, when this closure started, I wore casual clothes for a while, and then I thought, well, number one, I got more dress clothes than I have casual clothes, and number two, I've been wearing a tie for 45 years, and I felt like I was out of uniform, so I started putting it back on and going to work. I'm the only one here, but I still wear a suit.
Exactly. I think it's great.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. To all the board, the boards, there's been some change on the board, but they've all been terrific to work with and supportive. And it's to Don's point, it's not easy to understand how schools are financed in this state. And so the confidence that the board has showed in me to rely on me for that, I appreciate. So thank you.
Thank you, Randy, for your service.
Oh, you're very welcome. I like I said, I've really enjoyed it. I'm going to miss the people. It's going to be a hole.
Yeah. Thanks, Randy. We'll miss you too.
Well, thank you, Soleil. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks so much, Randy.
Hey, Jose. Yeah, good. Glad to work with you and glad to get to know you. So
likewise.
And I know you guys you'll do fine. Well, it's going to be a bit of a struggle in the near future, but long term, we'll get by it. We'll get through it. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Randy.
You bet. No problem.
Okay, so I think that's it for the retirees. So let's move on to the next thing.
Okay. Facilities update.
Okay, so Don Carter, if we could have Don Carter come on and present the facilities update for us.
Don, are you in here?
Yeah, I just got on.
There
I
he
wasn't
is.
sure if I was forgotten about in the waiting room. Is my audio working? My video? Oh, no.
No video, yeah.
Huh. It's not detecting a camera for some reason, although it's on. Huh. I'm using my laptop with a built-in camera. So that's right. I don't have a camera. So, but can I share my screen for
Yeah, if you hit that green button on the middle of the bottom and share the screen, then it'll populate.
Okay. All right. Host disabled. So
Cindy.
There, no. Okay. Am I sharing the screen now?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, sorry about the technical issues there, but just wanted to go over a few. This is it's a PDF version of a PowerPoint I put together. I won't go over every detail, of course, in person, but I do want to highlight some of the issues. These are just some of the things we started back in, I guess, when did this all start? Mid-March, or I'm forgetting now the timeline, but things that we have completed, things we're planning on, and also some future projects. And then I have a sort of an appendix to this of things we've done in the last 3 weeks that we've done since I've created this forum. And then also I have a little announcement afterwards, which I will make, which is a good news announcement. So slide. I got to get rid of all those folks over there. I can't see. Okay, so this is kind of what we've been doing. So real quick agenda, I'm just going to go over some completed projects, some of the stuff we are still working on, and some of the things we are hoping to do based on the resources we have. So first, we have pretty much in the very beginning when this all started, we disinfected every classroom, office, school bus, public space, et cetera, with the CDC approved peroxide cleaner. And then we kept that up even before we were actually technically shut down and the state shut down and gave directives. We kept this up just as a routine basis, as a preventive maintenance, because we knew it was happening and it wasn't going away very soon. Then we also started what we were going to do as a spring break project was the CES drop-off. Part of the traffic mitigation issues we have at CES. If you have been on Chenoweth Loop Road when CES was being picked up in the afternoon in the beginning of the year or middle of the year, it was pretty chaotic. So the city came to us, as well as the police department, asked us to come up with a plan, which we did with the help of Blue Zones as well as other folks. Part of that plan was making a new pickup in the Wetonka parking lot for CES. And that's where you can see in that bottom picture, we actually put some concrete K-rails there between the fence and to create sort of a 4-foot safe area for kids to wait, as well as the high school kids who get picked up later. So it was a safety improvement for both. Now the project has been put on hold until we get back and we see what the future is going to hold for us for the opening, but that is still sort of in our future project list. Some of the things we've done that we usually aren't able to do as much because while school was still in session, we did a lot of work in the turf areas. Hopefully you've noticed how nice and lush and green some of them are looking. We did a lot of work with whether it's aeration, overseeding, fertilizing, all that stuff. We did some very large tree trimming. That's a picture of them trimming the large trees along 10th Street, right there in front of Wetonka. We also removed a couple very dangerous trees behind the old middle school at Chenoweth Middle School. Some of the, we know we all have some pretty poor hardscape areas and we have some trip hazards. So we've been sort of hitting the most severe trip hazards, and there's a picture of just one random patch which we did in the sidewalk. We've done many of those, and we will do more in the future as well. So some of the other stuff we did, just to highlight, I worked with Jay Kosick from Mosier when this started going on. They weren't sure of how to handle a lot of this. So I brought in his custodian and we trained him on how to properly disinfect for this COVID issue, and whether it's SARS or coronavirus or whatever it might be. And we also supplied them with a dispenser as well as the product that everyone was, it was pretty much gone. You couldn't find these products just like hand sanitizer and TP, unfortunately. So we got them all set up and we're still working with them to help them open up school correctly. And then we just help other folks get along with whether it's nutrition or we also donated a bunch of masks. I don't know if you remember when MCMC put out the call, the community on Facebook, they were desperate for N95 masks, which are still hard to get. We corralled up 500 of those plus 500 of the non-medical surgical masks, and we donated those to MCMC. And we did another donation as well. I dropped off at the MCMC HR about 3 weeks later. So we gave what we could for the masks. Ongoing projects, these are just a few examples here. You could see where there's a good example there, classroom before and after the floors up at Dry Hollow. That's one of the modulars. These are stuff that we obviously do in the summertime when we're so-called flipping the school, but that's kind of what they've been doing since April, besides these large projects we're talking about. In the other pictures, you'll notice the floor. This is Watonka Kitchen. It looks yellow, which it is yellow, but up underneath it looks white. That's because they've been hand scraping with razor blades and strippers to get off years of built up what is a solid body wax. So this was more of something to help out the kitchen, make it look better, but also sanitary. These are things we usually would never have time for. So this is just one example of some of the deep cleaning or detailing, if you will, that they've been working on in all the schools. Ongoing projects, at least when we were doing this, a lot of cleaning walls. There's an example in the hallways, Dry Hollow, top to bottom, detailing restrooms, hard surface cleaning, meaning doors, and not just sanitizing, disinfecting, but I mean actually scrubbing as much as they can. And obviously, if it's worn out paint, you ain't gonna scrub it off, but it has improved quite a bit. Some more ongoing projects, doing a lot of carpet cleaning, exterior building washing where there's power washing. We're gonna try to figure out a way to get some of the hard water stains on the west side of town on the windows, like a Watonka and CES. We're working on that. We've tried a couple things. That's still in my queue to do. And then we did a lot of light bulb changing for a couple of reasons. One, a lot of our old lighting is very orange looking, whether it's old and dim, different Kelvin, which is the color, makes it look very dingy and hard to see. So we've been upgrading to higher efficiency, so we save energy, but then it's also just makes a nicer learning environment, if you will. Nice bright lights. And there's an example of, I think that's up at Dry Hollow where they're working. And some of the future projects, which we've actually done a couple of these, so which we'll go out. At CES, there's that newer, I think it was done just before I got here, there was that covered walkway put in at CES and the mod ramps. The wood underneath is not painted, so we're going to try to paint those out. We are actually almost completed. Some of the schools are still ongoing, but we're going to try to complete minimum of 2 of the worst classrooms in every school. Some of the schools were actually going beyond 2 at this point, but that was our initial goal. We're going to try to remove some stains or repaint some of the ACM tiles. ACM is asbestos containing material, so we can't remove them, and the material is fine. It's just the glue that holds it, so we don't want to disturb that because it's safe as it is. So we're just going to try to do a lot of cosmetic work with that. We're going to install some fencing there at CES. That was one of the requests because the kids like to escape through our little snow fence we have there when we got runners. So we're going to put a permanent fence there, and that'll be done in-house as well too. Most of these are all done in-house at this point. We're using in-house labor, and we're using a lot of the funds that we're not using, say for toilet paper and paper towels. Some of the products which we would use on a day-to-day basis on when school is open, we're basically taking those funds and being able to supply all the stuff we need for the projects here. So we're just kind of diverting the funds to a lot of, whether it's deferred or on hold projects because of time or resources. We've actually been able to capture a lot of those on hold or deferred smaller items like this. A few examples of the other future projects, whether it's painting doors right there. I think that's that bottom right is a old door. I think that's a Colonel Wright. It's always kind of bothered me. So we're gonna paint stuff like that. We'll have time. We're doing a lot of small patching and repainting. I think Watonka bathrooms are in the middle. And that bottom left has been a problem for years at CES. If you guys know the playground at CES, when the kids come in, they line up in the mud and they run through the halls, which is a mess for us, a mess for everybody. So we actually fixed that with Randy's help, and I'm going to go over that here a little bit. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, by the way. Some of the future projects, one of these is already done. We're going to do some repainting numerous murals at C Colonel Wright, where it's all flaking off and they weren't the best, and some has had some inappropriate stuff put on it that they've blocked out. So we're going to try to improve that at least stick with the same historical gray. We're going to replace, and we actually did, every ballast and every bulb in the double gym at the Dalles Middle School. They're all original bulbs, so they've lasted almost 20 years. And it's a huge improvement besides the energy cost, which we'll see in a little bit. And if I'm going too fast, I don't have a short period, so I'm trying to make it quick. If you got any questions, feel free to stop me. Some of the other future projects, I won't go through all of them. There's so many. And this is just a sort of just a glimpse. I have a list probably about 10 times this large that I've always wanted to do. So as we whittle away on this is sort of a priority set. We have more to go. A lot of PMs, a lot of stuff that we've put on hold, some large, some small. One of the big things that we're trying to do as many safety items as we can, whether it's hardscape, whether it's grinding down trip hazards, replacing concrete, all in-house, which we are doing. And then I want to kind of open up another one, just sort of an appendix of some additional items that we've actually done since we've done this. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to start the slideshow. This is a real PowerPoint, so I can do that there from beginning. I don't have my glasses, so bear with me, please. From beginning, there we go. Okay, so the middle school, it's got that stained concrete, as we know. It's actually a nice building. It's a nice surface for a concrete building.
As you can see in your new slide deck.
Yeah, we're not seeing it.
Oh, you're not? Oh, okay. Well, let me, it says I am, oh, maybe new share. Oh, yes, I see. Okay. I'll get this Zoom techie stuff. Can you see that now? Additional
there we
projects? Go. Okay, thank you. So now I will go from beginning. Sorry about that. If I had Robbie here with me, I'd be able to get this without a hitch here. Ain't that right, Robbie? Okay, anyway.
Yeah,
so as you can see, the middle school's got that really nice stained concrete. Problem is it's porous, as most concrete is, all concrete. And when they graffiti, as you can see on the two left, and those were vulgar graffiti items that we needed to disguise, it makes a mess, as you can see. There's no way to restain that. We've gone through a couple to make it match. So we ended up having to paint that ribbon, as you see, in that terracotta color. And that'll probably go to the basketball court later. There's a lot of other graffiti there. There was probably about 10 large areas like this. So you can see the before and after. So that was one of the things that we've been trying to do all year, just never really had the time, but now we do. That's a special epoxy type paint, so that'll be very durable. It's made for this type of surface and hopefully a little bit more graffiti friendly. So here's actually the gymnasium. Excuse me, what was that?
Can you wash off graffiti that goes on that easier? Also?
Yes, with this epoxy paint, it does come off. If they get into it with a oil-based something, or we can easily paint over it because it is a Sherwin-Williams coat, and we have that color code, so we can kind of keep that up. And we can continue that same theme along the basketball courts if they hit that, which I'm afraid they might. It's either, but at least we can cover it now, and pretty easy. So as you see, this is actually one that we were going to do in the last slide, which they just finished. You can see the before and after on the lighting. If you see the yellow where I have the original, that's the original lights from 2002 or whatever it was, 2006. They're 4100, and the new lights you see, they're not real bright. They're 6500. They're more efficient. And then actually on the right, you can see how bright that gym is now. it's really conducive to, playing any kind of sports, where before it was kind of getting yellow and, a lot of shadows starting. So that was just one of the things that, although it was like, I forgot how many ballots and bulbs, but it was quite a bit. That was quite a bit of money that we diverted from our savings from the other product. So there's one that we completed for the playground area. You can see the before. That was just the southern gate, the gate that leads from the playground towards Watonka. You can see they've tried building a little wooden bridge, put some doormats out there to keep the kids out of the mud. So created a asphalt landing on both sides of it to try to mitigate that issue as much as possible. So, and we did that while we did this. This was the big one that Randy allowed me to do. I've been bugged by every principal so far been here at CES. The kids would line up against those poles after recess, by class, and they just stand in the mud when it's raining, and it's just messy. So now we have a nice asphalt area for the whole school to line up, and hopefully won't track near as much mud into the building, and the kids won't get near as much muddy feet. So additional projects. Here's another lighting one I put this in here just today because the stark contrast was just so amazing. The new and old, this is in the high school, of course, the hallway. If you look about halfway down that pitch of the hall, you can see the walls go from white to orange. That's just the lighting difference. The walls are the same. It's just changing the lights from the old fluorescent to a non-ballasted LED like we have makes a huge difference. Besides being more, you could see better. It also makes things look brighter and cleaner, so to speak, not as drabby, if you will. And won't go through all of those, but Dry Hollow, that was one of the safety things. We've had a couple accidents at Dry Hollow with some folks tripping on both those areas. That sort of awkward step, if you will, walkway going through a planter, as well as in the front, all the hardscape is pitted at least a good inch deep. So today they saw cut, and they're going to replace in-house. We're going to replace about 400 square feet of concrete in the front entrance to avoid that safety hazard. And actually that walkway, which isn't obviously not ADA compliant, we're going to get rid of those steps, make people take the real pathway, and that will be incorporated back into the planner. So, and that is all I have for that. And I do have one little announcement, if I will. So I will stop sharing, I guess. Do I just click the stop share button? There we go. I can see John's wonderful face now. Okay. Hi, John. So I do want to make a little announcement. A year before last, I submitted a grant for a seismic rehab evaluation grant for, I think it's $25,000, and we were awarded that grant. And we used those monies to seismically evaluate all the buildings listed with the state that are in our district that are seismic, I think they have to fall in category 4, just basically ones that need additional help. Dry Hollow was one, Kurt's Gymnasium was one. And last year I applied for the seismic rehab grant. I think it was $2.1 million, and we were not awarded that. But this year I submitted the grant again for Kurt's Gymnasium, being that was the biggest priority out of all of them. And we were awarded I'll be the exact dollar. We were awarded $2,276,980. That grant is official now. We got that from Business Oregon, which is from the state, to seismically retrofit Kurt's Gymnasium. This will bring the building up to basically an immediate occupancy performance level following a seismic event. So if we have an earthquake, unless it's a 10.5 or some, real catastrophic event, the gym will fall and we can still use that, whether it's emergency shelter or whatever. It will increase the strength. It'll help preserve the building to serve us as well as the community. Now, there's a lot of details that I won't go over all the technical stuff that it'll do. Some of the items will be replacing roof sheeting, a lot of strengthening, a lot of steel and additional concrete. We will get a new partial roof where we get new sheeting. It's not a cosmetic grant. We can't spend this money to make the building look pretty and buy new basketball hoops and all that. This money has to be spent on the seismic retrofits. A few of the windows in the obscure areas will have to be filled in with concrete to provide that shear strength. But like I said, we should get the contract from the state here shortly, but it is official. We were awarded that grant. I learned that about 2 weeks ago. So that's the good news. Almost 2.3 million.
That's
really
awesome.
good.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Okay, so I know I rushed through that real quick. Is there any questions or?
No questions, but kudos, Don, on procuring the grant for the district. That's a huge help to get Kurt's gym some additional safety features there. And then the work that you've been doing is tremendous. I know that a lot of this gets jam-packed into the summer, and you can only do so much, but it's great to be able to see kind of these small bits here and there getting done at the various school buildings. So thank you for that. And your team. I know that's a lot of work to get done. I mean, the proof is in the pictures. So thank you so much for all the effort that's been happening since mid-March.
And there's one thing if I can add. One of the things we have done is sort of prepare for if this event reoccurs or another event like this in the fall, as some are predicting. We are as ready as we can be, so to speak, through Sodexo's procurement system, if you will. I was able to secure, I got 18,000 face masks. I got enough disinfectant to make probably about 10,000 bottles of disinfectant. It's a concentrate, plus all the PPE that we would need, at least of what we know now. So we are ready as we can be at this point if this happens in the fall or winter or whatever. So.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Jose said. I'm really pleased the amount of extra work you're able to do during this time, how you're really kind of taking advantage of the students not being in the classroom. And that also I understand that your team is doing a ton of sanitizing even every time a teacher comes into their classroom to get some supplies. So I appreciate that extra effort too. And I think that our schools will be in a much better physical shape coming into the fall. So hopefully we'll have some kids in them.
Yes, amen. Man, it is all about the staff.
Thank you so much for taking all this time to really do the deep, super deep clean. I mean, I was just thinking there's probably not been a time in anybody's memory or history when a school's been closed for more than just the summer duration. So it's, on the positive side, this is a unique opportunity to get together, get all these things done that maybe required a little bit more time, but you didn't have that during the summer because it's such a compressed window. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, you're welcome. There's always a silver lining. Yeah, we're good.
Thank you,
CD
Don.
back to you. Yes.
Also, I think Sodexo brings a whole advantage for us in their ability to procure supplies at cheaper rates and to get things, especially in this COVID-19 period, that nobody else could get. And to distribute that in the community, that is just an awesome connection that is a real advantage for having Sodexo as a partner in our schools.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we can move on now. Several weeks ago, we had a kind of a district-wide professional learning community, but and you heard from a lot of the staff, and we'll do that again on the 9th of June. But what we didn't have time for was, and we weren't really prepared at that point because we were still scrambling to see how what some of the rules were for special education. So tonight, I've asked Jerry Snodgrass, our special education director, to update the board on how things are going with special education. And I asked him to be very transparent. I know this is a especially difficult endeavor to take on distance learning with students that have needs that just aren't easily met through the distance learning mode. So Jerry's here tonight to present and to answer any questions you may have. So Jerry.
Welcome, or good evening. Glad to join you, and glad you have some questions about what's been a really interesting development on how to administrate or how to roll out services in a way we've never done before for a population that's unique and very special. Had to solicit some help from Robbie Deming earlier in the day. Thank you, Robbie, for saving me. But I'd like to ask you now if you could roll out that slideshow. All right. I figured that you would prefer to hear from our line staff more than anybody else, and maybe our kids themselves. So it's just, we've followed suit with the Department of Education and named our department Student Services some years ago. And a real brief overview, next slide, please, Robbie, on just what our district looks like. I believe we're about 17%, depending on the day, for what representation we have of students with disabilities. The lion's share being students with learning disabilities and communication disorders. I don't expect you to be able to read the fine print down lower there. Next slide, please. As a guideline for how to go about a discussion like this, my thought was, well, what did the state tell us to do? And they gave us guidelines, no explicit instructions, no how-to manual, but they did say, here's what your priorities should be in a very large handbook with a lot of detail about special education in particular. So first of which being safety and wellness. What does a learning environment need to look like? So toward that end, next slide, please. Our wonderful occupational therapist, Elena Durham, puts these videos together every week. And if you push play there, Robbie.
Hi everybody, it's Miss Elena, the occupational therapist. Hope you are all doing well and staying healthy. I sure wish I could see you, but since I can't, I'm going to show you some different things you can do at home so that you can continue with your occupational therapy. You all have been making such great progress this year, and we want to see that continue. So, one thing I'm going to show you today is how to set up a simple workspace. As you're doing your distance learning, it's very important that you have a consistent space each day to do your work. So for Bailey, we set up a little table. This is my daughter, Bailey. Hello. And we set up a little table where her feet can be firmly planted on the floor. And she has her workspace here. So she has everything she'll need. She has her pencil box, she has her glasses, and all the work that she needs to do. And once she finishes, she puts them in that basket that says done. So you'll also notice that I put up just a simple board here so that she is not distracted by all the things behind her workspace, like the books and all that stuff that's behind that. So you can set up, you can use a trifold board from the dollar store. You could use just some poster board, anything you can think of at home, just to minimize distractions and make sure that your brain is ready to focus and learn. So
one great example of how staff have just tried to assist parents in directly delivering instruction to our kids. Next slide, please. Another priority, relationship is really important. Connecting with kids has been a recurrent theme from the Department of Ed. Next slide. And humor has been integral in how we do that. So Mike Collins, one of our speech pathologists, I couldn't help but throw a clip in here that he portrayed during Spirit Week. Push play, please.
Hey, Wildcats. It is Tuesday, the 5th of May, and it is Spirit Week. I thought last week was, but actually it's this week. Spirit Week is this week, and today is Pet Day. So if you have a pet, you should be taking a picture or a video and sending it to Miss Megan, the counselor. She is compiling a whole bunch of pictures for Spirit Week, and I'm going to show you my pets right now. Joey, come here. Come here. Okay, here's one. Cool. Oh. 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 He's big. He's a 50-pounder, and his name is Joey. And he's a good boy, except for his breath isn't great, but he's really good. I guess he doesn't really have anything to say. But if you have a pet, you can make a video and put your pet on.
So it just was special to me how our staff have stepped up and found ways to reach kids and preserve some good in this distant manner that we're interacting. Next slide, please, Robbie. Now this one's especially really neat. One of our deaf children, and we utilize the services of a sign language interpreter, an instructional assistant, and a child in 3 different locations. Just watch how this works.
Next word.
Heart. H-E-A-R-T.
Okay, what's the sign for heart?
Heart. Like you have a heart.
Heart. There you go. That. Yep. Heart.
Okay, let's make a sentence with it.
I have this one.
That's what a lot of people use, but the proper sign for deaf people is heart. Mm-hmm.
How about the heart on?
Okay, let's use it in
a sentence.
Yes, I have a heart.
That's a sentence.
That's a sentence. I have a heart, period.
Good job.
I have a heart, period.
Period.
If that doesn't get your heart, I don't know what does. So it's one of our more unique learners there and more unique ways that we're going about it. So notice our instructional assistants are very much a part of this distance learning routine, and kudos across the board to licensed and classified staff in doing whatever we can and mastering new skills so very quickly. Next slide, please, Robbie. Another priority, equity, efficacy. Prioritizing equity wherever we can. What's that look like for us? Next slide. Well, we've got some kids with some extreme communication deficits and some cognitive deficiencies, and we're using some software that we had to incorporate in a rush. Here's what that looks like.
Yeah, wait till the finish our
There you go.
schoolwork.
Yeah.
Then we're playing
Where is
games
the cow?
downstairs. Anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Doug blocked it.
Where is the pig? Where's that pig?
So a parent in the background, a child on, or a young adult student utilizing some software, and a teacher also connected, all to continue education for this child. Next slide, please. And final priority, innovation, with a spirit of possibility, centering in deep learning and culturally sustaining practices. Next slide. Another student in our Structured Learning Center program doing calendar, which is kind of a cornerstone of instruction for many of our kids. Push play, please, Robbie.
Tomorrow, Saturday.
Good job. So
Good
tell
job.
everybody the date.
Do the
All
date.
together. All of our voices. Ready? Friday.
Friday,
May
May
8th, 2020. Nice job.
Nice job.
Okay.
So here, I mean, we just didn't realize how hard it was, or how much we depend on physical presence to do our work. But staff have found a way to try to keep that connection. It depends on effort from our parents. This is what it looks like, how we're trying to make it work for some of our more impacted learners. Next slide, please. Oh, technology. We've had to learn so much, and these brands that you see portrayed on the screen represent some of the new tools that we've had to master. This DocuSign, for example, in the right side, has been integral in how we conduct the meetings and how we acquire paper signatures for legal consent on documents. Because one thing that has not slowed down for our department is the procedural compliance requirements haven't backed off one bit. So for specialists, much of their day continues to be spent in meetings. We've just conducted nearly 50 plan meetings for students coming into kindergarten, already identified with disabilities, and each one of those we spent at least an hour with those families and involved staff. So I just can't say enough good things about the effort and innovation that our staff have immediately brought to bear. Next slide, please. So like I touched on here, the challenges that we had to face that end of that second week of March, I think it was, if not the third, the families are so, we've just immediately had to recognize what a family deals with and to educate their kids at this point in time. One, that bandwidth is shared between every member of that household, sometimes for work, sometimes between siblings. And we've had to keep that in mind as we ask so much of students for their work output and the hours that we want them to participate. It has a lot of unanticipated outcomes to it. So thank you. I guess my main point is that we get it, what you're having to do to make this work, and you are suffering in terms of making sacrifices to continue education during distance learning. Next slide, please. So the methods that we're using, especially for the youngest kids, packets that go home either on the school bus or electronically, a lot of great effort going on right there, back and forth the traditional way. Next slide. For our physically disabled kids, immediately operations department stepped up and delivered some of this equipment to homes so that we could continue the mobility and physical needs with equipment and adaptive devices that needed to be in place. Next slide. Traditional mail. It's got a short clip right there, Robbie.
It's time to send some notes of appreciation to kids who are passing their classes.
Next slide. All of our staff, in large part, are posting videos for families, for kids to engage with. These aren't set up to be playable, but there's just a whole host of clips that are entertaining, educational. We've got a lot of real burgeoning video stars here that we didn't recognize prior to this point. Next slide, please. And now here, as Candy alluded to earlier, when I ask people for input and to share some of their work, this is hard. It's not all a rosy message for you. This is not something we would choose to do under any other circumstances. And though there's some video quality deterioration in some of these clips, here's some message from our high school staff.
For me, what's going well, there are a few students that I had predicted would not do well with distance learning who have defied logic and actually are performing quite well. So my role is try to constantly communicate with the students, check in with Power School, advise. I have Zoom office hours every day from 11 to noon where students are able to join me and troubleshoot or just talk about how they're doing at home. Assignments I have for my Learning Center class involve ReadWorks, which are reading passages with leveled questions, and then Khan Academy math skill building exercises. I ask that my students do 15 to 20 minutes a day on those two programs, but really I want the lion's share of their time spent on their general education assignments that I can help them with.
Considering the situation, if I were a student, I would feel overwhelmed with some of the assignments that they're expected to do, especially many of our kids who have struggled with reading and comprehension. And so I could understand their frustration with that. And I'm finding myself feeling useless, not all the way useless, you know, but what more could I be doing to help these kids be successful or engaged?
My name is Joan Hutchinson. I'm a special education teacher at the Dalles High School. I teach 11th and 12th graders. Fortunately, with the governor's exemptions, most of my seniors are in really good shape. I think I only have 2 out of the 20 that are going to graduate, or 19 that are going to graduate, that are still doing classes. So, and we've been in contact with them to try to keep them going, to realize that you're almost done, you can make this. I think next year I'll do hybrid classes. I think our great equalizer will be assistive technology for these kids, but right now they're not good at accessing it or knowing how to use it. And I think if we could just get a little bit of time together, I think we could get some of them over the hurdles.
The things that have gone well, some of the kids are learning to use technology in a way that they haven't had to use it before. I had a student who didn't know how to access their email or how to send an email either. So we worked through that, something that we would have thought they would know by now, but they didn't. I'm learning to use Google Classroom. I had not used it before. I use Quill online for a writing tool and assessment. I use Khan Academy for some of them, but for some of the kids, like Joan was talking about, it doesn't meet their needs. They need it given in a different way. And even though there's a video to go with it, they still need that video broken down. I don't have a large number of students who are engaged. Barriers have definitely been technology access. I finally went in and got a Chromebook, borrowed it from the school so I could do Zoom meetings with the visual and the audio. In my own home, we don't have that. So that has been a barrier. In my own home, there are 4 of us using technology often at the same time, which can slow things down. Connecting with students has been very difficult. I have one who connects every day during the week, and then I'll have others who inconsistently connect, but the majority of my students are not. All of this happened so quickly, I feel that students and staff were unprepared to deliver instruction and to receive instruction in a meaningful way, though I know everybody's working so hard to try to overcome that. I just feel that when we return in the fall, if we can have some in-person time with students to help them learn to navigate the technology components and to reconnect and to remind them that their involvement is important, and to try to problem solve with them the issues that they have at home that are maybe making it difficult for them to access their learning.
Miranda's comments there really kind of echo in a lot of ways the struggle for our families. And it's important to recognize our staff, our employees, are also parents. And oftentimes their own families suffer for the compromises that are made and providing the instruction for others. I just see effort all around. Earlier, Deborah Eddy's comments there about feeling like she's not doing enough. I think that sense of guilt is prevalent among our staff who want to do more. They want to be able to solve these problems and barriers, and that sense of potential despair is just an undercurrent that we fight against. Next slide, please, Robbie. And one of the last year, our Dry Hollow team had, I eliminated most of the staff commentaries here, but this little summary at the end from our teacher, Rhonda Stott.
So this is my team, and I'm just going to share a little bit about what I've been feeling and our team has been feeling. And, you know, some of our kids are getting their one-on-one program via Zoom. I have team members calling parents and weekly checking up on them. There's packets going home. We're helping, you know, them maybe with things in their classroom. I think the biggest thing that I feel is the pain that the parents are going through. Sometimes you hear the shakiness in their voices, and some are feeling so frustrated that when you call them, they just say, we're fine, you know, like, don't bother me anymore. And so that part has been really, really hard. The second part that I see as struggle is that half of the caseload are really struggling with reading and math, and teaching them. We use manipulatives, we're using magnet letters, we're using whiteboards, we're using so many things to teach concepts. You cannot do that on a computer, you cannot do that on a packet, and you cannot do that online or a program. We need to have them with us. And I think the biggest thing is that these kids need hugs, they need high fives, they need that human touch. And that is what's really missing during this time. So that's what I have to share. Thank you.
So I just today saw the video that Leslie Sullivan has on Facebook, which if you haven't already seen it, you must, with the song that she's composed about missing our kids. And I think that's a sentiment across our school district right now, is that we're making do, but there's a loss. And that's the message that I wanted to capture here and throughout the rest of this show. But all of that time spent, what questions can I answer for you about the innovation and the methods that we're bringing to bear to teach our kids?
This is Dawn. I have a question. Obviously, you know, as to your point that we've got students that are, you know, they need that human touch. And so I don't know if we can kind of roll out our thinking ahead, but is there a plan to try to compensate or counteract some of the issues that the children may be experiencing now as sort of like, it may be sort of traumatic for them? And so I'm worried about, as we go into the fall, hopefully we'll have in-person classrooms. The instructional staff may be having to deal with more intensified emotions and needs and things like that.
I'll say that our department will not answer that or solve that strategic problem by ourselves. Our whole school district is still waiting for further guidance from the state. We have had that delivered for summer activities, but the big questions about the fall aren't there. I really haven't had that answered by anybody at the state level in terms of how. But I think what you've heard here is we need some time. I'm hoping personally for a hybrid solution, if not a complete return to normalcy.
Right.
Because it's just what I've observed and what I hear from our practitioners is we're losing kids.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have our full complement of student enrollment, right? And there's no blame to assign.
No, there isn't. But I'm just concerned about the educators. They're going to have to work extra hard if, you know, we have in-classroom instruction again, that here's some kids that, you know, maybe things are a little bit more amplified, and that's going to be hard for everybody.
Absolutely. And we call it, there's a name for that, about the loss that occurs that escapes me at the moment. But summer slide is one of those terms. And there will be a price to pay for this elongated period of time without that core instruction and the social skill instruction that we put in place for this population. Anybody else?
Yeah, Jerry, can I ask, do you know, can you give us a number, your best guess of how many kids are engaged? You know, a couple weeks into this, we heard a number that was across the entire district, all kids. It was only about 60%. That was a couple months ago. I'm curious if you know.
Yeah. I'm going to say, Soleil, I'm going to say 30%. And that's a very unqualified guesstimate, because we're relying on the checking in and some assignment completion. And I would say that number gets worse the longer we're out. So it's deteriorating.
Jerry, is there any possibility of doing some special summer school programs for your kids? More of that one-on-one work to prevent some of the summer slide?
Well, we are awaiting further word on that. I get that there was initial discussion at the state level about grants for summer programs. For some students, we're addressing that now, but not a large. There is really no large scale summer program that I can explain to you or describe in detail at present time. And if there were, we're still following these governor guidelines that really put us in the same spot for delivery of instruction that we are today. So there's so many variables that interface here, which, if anything, what you should take away from this discussion is it's hitting this population harder than the rest. One of the things I've said in our administrative discussions is that the achievement gap is unfortunately widening, especially in this scenario for this group of children.
Jerry, have you had a conversation with people elsewhere in the state experiencing these very same problems, or have surmounted some of these problems in a way which you haven't thought of?
No, unfortunately, I've just received validation that everybody suffered, not just in Oregon. This is a nationwide here. I'd say I'm proud of our group. Our staff are probably doing as well, if not better, than most. Certainly better than some of the urban settings, and the efforts. We were thanked. Yeah, it's a whole group effort. There's no one. Everybody's stepping in and doing whatever they can for whatever aspect of the school district. I was recently thanked by some hospital employees, for example, for the valiant efforts for our transportation department, who are delivering not just food, but the instruction, and are really kind of a vehicle right now for an extension of the school district into people's homes. So I'm wandering about here, but I don't have an answer for you, John, in terms of what's the magic bullet, what is the antidote for this. What we need to do is re-engage with our kids. Technology gives us some measures of doing that, but not enough. And I think you've heard some clips here which really portray that that physical presence is necessary, and then the burden that the families are under, I hope does not need to continue. So I appreciate your interest and support to our group of staff, and I'm available at your disposal for whatever additional questions you might have. That's what I have for you tonight.
I really appreciate your presentation. It was awesome in the sense that we got to really see what all of your staff is doing and just some of the relationships they're making. That was a really intimate, good picture for a board to see. So thank you for putting that together.
I'll pass that along to the hardworking people that put a lot of time and effort into
And
it.
that's what's obvious is the amount of work behind the scenes that's going on with you and with the whole district. You know, we keep seeing that, just the awesome trying, everyone trying to do their best to make something happen here in super unordinary times.
Well said. Exactly.
Thanks, Jerry.
Well, thank you, Jerry. I really, really appreciate. Rebecca, did you have a question?
Oh, I was just thanking him and his staff for going above and beyond. Thank you.
Yeah, and lastly, just want to say thank you. And I actually appreciate hearing the challenges. Because one of the things that, I always remind myself, and I've been hearing this saying more and more, but you don't know what you don't know. So unless you kind of hear that negativity or the challenges, you're not going to be able to address them. And it sounds like you're taking that feedback and trying to, as a team, figure out how to address those challenges. So thank you for that. I would agree that the presentation was helpful to understand, what you're doing and then what you're up against. And it sounds like it's one of the tougher hills to climb that we have as a district. So thank you for all the efforts that you and your team are doing.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
Thank you, Jerry. Excellent job. Appreciate it. I did have a text message from Kurt just to for the update of how the high school is doing. And he's saying that 80% are passing at least one class at the high school, but only 35% are passing all of their classes. So we've got challenges. We've got challenges everywhere. The other thing I wanted to say to the board in regards to it in terms of summer or funding or so forth, as you all know, we received the revenue forecast. We're still trying to figure out what it is that we're going to be moving forward with it in terms of resources. And we get mixed messages right now. It's hard to say, well, I can count on this money. So for example, the federal money under the CARES Act, we had an estimate of $750,000 that was coming to the district. And now just recently we were told, well, they're going to rerun those figures that don't count on that. The estimate is going to be different. So without knowing what your resources are, it's really hard to plan and put in place. And it is difficult to put in place without guidance, the kind of effective instruction that could start to close that gap. But it is something we're all thinking about and working on. And as far as plans for how we look as we start next year, I've been fortunate enough to be a part of, usually twice weekly conversations with Colt Gill and superintendents from across the state. Colt is working hard on helping with many other organizations and input from many organizations, helping put together the draft guidance. And we're on a 10-day schedule right now where he wants the final draft approved. So next week is a key. There are a couple of key meetings that I'm involved in. I talked to Kurt earlier. One of our biggest challenges in looking towards the fall is how any sort of hybrid looks at the high school level, and certainly any cohort and so forth. So Kurt's working and has given me some information to share with Colt and the other superintendents. And I'm also a part of a group that's in particular focusing on that high school piece. But we've got challenges for transportation. We've got challenges for if you're going to have brick and mortar but you can only have a reduced number of students, and you have to change the space within the classroom, you know, to accommodate that. So what do you do with all of your, you know, your additional desks, your additional materials? Where do you store those if you can only go by a certain space? The other thing that I was struck by this week is they're talking about using spacing as opposed to the summer guidance is only 10 to a cohort. Well, they're looking for the fall to increase the size, but they're going to go by the size of your classroom. Well, I think all of you know that across the district, we have a variety of different size classrooms. Certainly within the high school, we have a large variety of the size of a classroom. So how does that work? How does that work when you can only bring back X number of students into a fifth grade classroom at Colonel Wright, but you can bring it back more into Dry Hollow because their physical classroom space is a little bit larger. So we've got many, many challenges that are ahead of us and on a really tight time frame to try to get these resolved and get something finalized, a finalized draft that has to pass the approval of so many people, not just educators, in order to be put in place for us. So and then the other part that's got to start almost immediately is the fact that the revenue forecast, as you know, is not looking good for us. The legislature will probably be in session around the 15th of June. So we don't know what our resources are going to be for the fall, but what we do know is that we're in this, not just for this next year, but right now we're being told just plan for the next biennium to be even rougher because of the estimates of the kind of the cliff we're going off in terms of revenue for the state. So we've got our challenges, but yet, as you've seen tonight, we've got valiant efforts going on the part of all of our staff in terms of whether it's the facilities piece that you saw, or certainly I really appreciate what Jerry's been able to present, which is the bottom line, working directly with our kids. How can we do that? How can we keep them engaged? And I just have to give kudos to, in a very difficult environment, to all of our staff who are just taking what we do have and doing the very best they can. So with that, I have one other piece, one other piece underneath my board report, my superintendent's report to the board, and that was from the public comment that we received on April 20th. And a person had been very concerned about the security issues with Zoom and had offered some links to some articles that were pointing out the security risks and so forth of using Zoom. So I have invited Cody Harmon, our Education Service District Tech Support Director, and he is here to answer some questions. But overall, I want you to know that Zoom has been very proactive. They know in the early stages what went wrong, so to speak. They very much listened, and they've done a great job of updating their encryption. They're controlling much better in terms of data routing and safeguards and controls to prohibit. I know all of you have probably heard on the news about unauthorized participants showing up in Zoom meetings. So they've combated that with complex passwords, with the waiting room feature that's there, with meeting lock features that can prevent anyone from joining the meeting, and ability to remove participants, and authentication profiles that only allow entry to registered users or restrict to very specific email domains. They've upgraded their meeting host controls, their security controls. The recordings are all encrypted with complex passwords, and they have done a number of other things that are really helping us feel comfortable. But I would like, if Cody is with us, if he would chime in on some of the things that, because he's worked more directly with this than I have, and certainly understands at a much deeper level than I do the security issues that Zoom has been working and has addressed.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you covered most of it. There were a few things in the very beginning that were really concerning. Zoom as a platform was really geared towards productivity, small business, that sort of thing. When their scope changed due to distance learning, they really had a huge lift to try and make some changes to the platform so that it was more secure and all of these various things. And we had Zoom bombing going on, and there was just a lot of really bad stuff happening. So what we ended up doing was we worked, all of the districts actually across the nation, we worked with Zoom directly on a daily basis and would send in bug reports and things. And they were fixing stuff as fast as we could send it in. So we knew that they were going to be very responsive, and they addressed the most concerning aspects of the software immediately. That negative press really occurred in the very, very early beginning and sort of continued to proliferate a bit even after they had patched a bunch of this stuff. But all of the things that were in the public comment and were of concern, and all of the other things that were of concern to me that weren't in the comment, have all been patched. Zoom did purchase another company called Keybase. Their primary focus is on security. They have a ton of security engineers now, and their focus has been on this 90-day plan, and they're well into this 90-day plan to finish basically military-grade encryption on their platform. So I feel very secure in how we've done this, how we're doing this, how we're continuing to do it. And I don't see any reason for us to make a change now, but in the future, if we need to, we do have Google Teams available, Google Meet available and Microsoft Teams. So those are always other choices, but we were hesitant to kind of shake the foundation that the staff already had and the training that they had in this platform. Is that helpful, Candy?
Thank you, Cody. Do any of you board members have questions of Cody at this point?
I'm good, thank you.
No, just comment. Thanks for going through the links. I think this really provides a good response to the concerned parent that we had. So thanks for kind of doing that. And to know that we as a district did have a voice along with the other districts to show them, or I guess provide them feedback, and them being responsive is nice to hear. And I would think that as a district and even parents, we should be happy to know that, because you don't always get the opportunity to provide direct feedback to a company. So to know that it's good to hear, and that it's being taken as part of their ongoing work that they're doing on the product that they provide.
Anyone else have questions or comments of Cody? So I just want to take a moment to thank Cody. He has been doing